All right, I have noon. We are still, he's still trying, Kevin is still trying to join us, so I think we should give him another minute. I would rather have him included in the entire board meeting.
Sent a message saying that we're waiting for him, so.
Okay, so we do have Robert by Zoom, and he has been talking to us and we can hear him, but he's not as loud as he would be if he would be he's joining by phone, so we need to be careful about listening carefully, especially when he's talking.
About this close.
I think we will. Noise from the hall. Any indication when you think he might get on, or? Well, the more you bug him, the less he has time to.
I would say about 5 minutes.
Oh, it's gonna be 5 minutes yet?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I would just start.
Yeah, I think we'll start then. I will call this special meeting of the Oaks Public School Board to order. It's Tuesday, August 17th, 2021 at 12:01 p.m. We're here in the Oaks Public Schools conference room as well as by Zoom. Board members Meal, Rosendahl, Nagel, and Heimbach are here in the conference room, as well as Mr. Getz. April Herring is joining from her office. Robert Thorpe is joining via Zoom on the phone. We also have Brian Sire and Lane Bredesen joining the Zoom meeting. And here in the conference room, we have our principals, Mr. Beta and Mrs. Sell, and Dave Irwin. Our action item for this meeting is to discuss the emergent sewer repair. At our August 10th meeting, we took action to proceed with that repair, the emergent portion of the repair, and get bids for the potential phases 2 and 3 or beyond of our sewer issues. And we now have before us a proposal that I just wanted to either affirm that this is what we understood or discuss that this is not what we understood, and have justified why it is not, and officially approve or deny and create a new plan. So we do have Kevin from Drain Services en route here with equipment, or he has sent equipment here, and he will be joining us soon via Zoom.
And that's just what he had sent as a text message this morning, that his intentions were to start mobilizing down here today, so throughout the day. So,
and so you have before you the email from Kevin to Mr. Getz sent on Friday. Dave Getz got that out to us yesterday afternoon, and you can see that the total proposal is $123,500. And this is for, if we look at item, the last two items of the detailed proposal, sewer reline segment 1 is 128 feet, and sewer reline segment 2 is 46 feet, which by my math is a total of 174 feet. When I reviewed the meeting recording from August the 10th, my understanding is that we thought the emergent section was 100 to 120 feet, and that he would estimate that cost would be $200 a foot, which comes up to $24,000 at the high end of 120 feet, and then double that to then encompass all the additional costs, whatever, mobilization, excavation, labor, equipment, whatever. That would be a rule of thumb. If we double that, then that comes up to $48,000. Well, the proposal, instead of being for 120 feet, is for 174. And instead of being $200 a foot, it's 250, which the justification is that the pipe is bigger than he discussed. Kevin is with us. He's gonna have audio, right? There's no
Yes.
microphone. Kevin, are you able to hear us? We cannot hear Kevin.
I can tell you that Kevin did talk to me about the reason that we went to the 6-inch pipe was after he did some more research on the flow restriction. And as much as we have coming into there, his suppliers recommended that we do bump that up to the 6-inch so that we're, because of the amount of reduction that was going to be taking place, it would get it closer to where it should be.
Okay,
So
Kevin now has a little phone by his name with a line through it, so I assume that means he's connected with us. Maybe he can hear us, but he is perhaps muted.
I think he's on via, must be phone.
That's what it looks like. Kevin, I don't know if you can hear me, but we can see that you're connected with us and we are not able to hear you if you are speaking. Does anybody know how to ask him to unmute himself? Does he have to do *6 or something like that?
should be just.
I just had to hit a button
Yeah, it
like
should
you
be
do on the
just-
computer.
There, do that.
Can you hear me now?
I can, thank you. Okay, thank you for joining us.
I'm like, my phone is switching between the hotel Wi-Fi that I'm in and my phone signal, so I just had to do a little shimmy there. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. I think I would like you to kind of take over. I've briefed the board as to where we're at, and the board has information in front of them, but I think I'd like Mr. Getz to lead us through this and ask Kevin for when you need to,
Okay.
okay?
So I think a big part of what we're seeing happen here is that obviously the pipe size increasing is what has also increased this a little bit. The other thing I think is when Kevin was here, that's why he was kind of scared to give a price, because he didn't know how many times he was going to have to dig down into the ground to make that actual connection. And that's the part that really starts adding up pretty quick. And there was, from what I'm looking at, just from when Kevin and I were talking, and Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's 3 different sites that are going to be evacuated that were not originally scheduled. And I'm guessing that when Kevin went back to look at the camera and watch the film, he said, well, there's something here. What is it? You know, where now he's getting a more accurate quote. And that's why he was kind of hesitant, to be my guess. So evacuation site number 2 is one that I would say was not talked about. Evacuation site 3 and evacuation site 7 are the 3 that I know of for sure that were not talked about, just because, and what we're talking about there, and what Kevin's trying to say there is that that's where he's gonna have to dig the hole down, just like he did out here in the hallway, so that he can connect the sewer pipes that are currently existing. Otherwise, we would not have access to what is being used in those areas. Kevin, am I saying that close or correct?
That's 100% accurate.
So that would be a big part of the difference between that. And then the $50 additional would be there too. So I don't know how else to explain it other than, I mean, when we're asking somebody on the spot to give us an explanation or a quote is pretty tough, especially when we're talking about something that's down in the ground and he doesn't know our system other than he ran his camera down it once or twice.
Speaking of the system, Dave, did you get a chance to brief everybody about why we increased the pipe diameter?
I did, and that was because of the flow, with a 4-inch flow, it was just not enough flow in there. So that's the whole reason for that. I don't think there's a.
Right. So when we
concern with doing
when we
that.
go to order pipe, we everything is ran by a PE, so they're taking into account the length of pipe and all that, and then they look at our videos and all that stuff. And the guy who reviewed our pipe order is actually pretty sharp. He pointed something out on our video. Is the 4-inch pipe upstream of there is like it's stained half full from probably the life of the pipe. So there's a lot of indicators that tell us that even on a good day, that pipe is probably half full, even when it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So he said with the pipe being as thick as it is on 4-inch, he recommended going up to 6-inch so that we didn't have, flow restrictions on a brand new sewer system. So we take that recommendation seriously, and that's why we bumped it up to 6-inch going through that part of the school so that we didn't have any issues further down the road.
So I have a question, Kevin. So when you were here last Tuesday, my understanding was that the emergent, the most critical section was, I think your words were 100 to 120 feet. Now this proposal is for 2 segments, one of 128 feet and one of 46 feet. Did something change, or are you doing more than you originally intended when you were talking about 100 to 120 feet?
No, I think that the 100 to 120 feet might have been misquoted, and Dave kind of alluded to that. There was 190 feet up on the screen when we were having that meeting. So I think maybe going back and forth talking between, phases 2 and 3, which are hovering around 100 feet each, that maybe that got tripped up. But actually what happened here is there's 189 feet of inspection from those 2-way cleanouts to the connection at the clay tile main out in front of the dumpsters. And I actually rewound everything. I subtracted off footage for pipe that's already been replaced that was in that inspection video, vertical risers that have been replaced, and all that stuff. So the 100 and we'll call it, 174 feet, I actually backed off like 29 feet of what was originally in that inspection. So that might have been, like I said, during the meeting misspoken about the segments we were on, but this is definitely what's been accounted for as the emergent part from those 2-way cleanouts to where the sewer leaves the school.
And then when you were here last Tuesday and you led us through the discussion, you estimated that the additional expenditure beyond the pipe relining, as a rule of thumb, to double what the dollar amount of the pipe relining. And now what we're seeing is more like triple, or actually the additional expenditures is actually about twice what the pipe expenditure is. Again, address that, and I think what we talked about, you discovered more places that needed to be excavated than you had anticipated at that meeting. Is that right?
So so we try to make sure that there aren't callbacks, right? Like we get in there and then all of a sudden there's a change order for 2 new dig spots because we didn't account for, the cooler drain and the floor drain in the boiler room. So all that inspection footage that I showed you guys before that proposal was sent off was probably reviewed another half a dozen times to make sure all the connections were good. We mapped out the school correctly and we're confident in what we're sending over to avoid, the call for unnecessary change orders. So in the meeting, when I'm talking about doubling my shot from the hip proposal, that was more to act like a place kicker so that you guys would know that, okay, when this proposal comes, things might be a little bit more aggressive than what I'm talking about in that meeting, kind of flying blind. So now that everything's been designed properly and we have a appropriate way to go about it, we've accounted for all the fixtures and we won't have any hiccups. This is what ensures a smooth project.
And the fact that we're adding 2-way cleanouts in 1 or 2 or more places, will do you anticipate that that would make subsequent repairs easier and less costly?
That's a really, really good question. So at excavation site 7, that is strictly for that reason. So, I mean, if the school was looking to shave this budget down, we could delete that. The reason why I threw it in is because we've got the wrecking crew on site and we can't see further west up that other hallway. So I figured, hey, we'll give them this rate while we're here. We'll pound it out. We'll throw in some two-way cleanouts. Now we have a way to inspect up the rest of the sewer going down that hallway, but we also have a point A to point B between there and the two-way cleanouts we've already put in if you ever want to line that segment. So in my bidding opinion, I threw that in there just as it might be wise to do it now so that further on down the road as phase 2 either comes up or there's another maintenance issue, you've got a point A to point B and point B to point C and so on down the line, kind of connecting the dots for that system, no matter what state of repair it's in.
And when are you prepared to start this project and how long would it take you to complete?
So I have 6 days on the calendar for this, which is getting us to the concrete being replaced and all of the holes we opened up and the concrete being replaced outside on the dumpster pad. We don't do any flooring replacement, just as our previous contracts. We get it up to about 1/8 of an inch low. So when we're done with this project, that would just be the only thing we'd hand off to you guys is final flooring finishes. So in the boiler room, we would have that taken care of because it's just a concrete floor. So we'd have that looking real nice. In the kitchen, you'd have some quarry tile replacements, and some grouting to do. And we'll get pretty surgical with that. So piecing it back together with whatever new material will be pretty easy. We're not just going to break that quarry tile apart. So, and then you'll have your resilient flooring out in the hallways for whatever you guys decide to do there. Otherwise, we'll have everything else taken care of when we're done. And then as far as starting goes, we are literally breaking a job site down. That's why I was a few minutes late, is I was just helping the crew out with that. We would be on 94 and taking off the Oaks exit and just dropping off our equipment sometime this afternoon and then getting started on dust protection and all that kind of stuff tomorrow morning.
That's all I have. So if other board members have questions, please fire away. Robert, are you hearing everything okay?
Yeah, I'm hearing. My question would be, Kevin, it looks like you have a $2,000 vertical foot dig rate. I could understand digging inside the building is very difficult. The 20,000 for the outside dig, is there any flexibility in any of that stuff? Because, digging outside, I'm assuming you'll be using heavy equipment to do that digging and not by hand.
Well, and that's a good question. We will be using heavy equipment, but not that heavy. The machine's got to sit on a city sidewalk basically to reach that. So we're not trying to have other issues come up. We're not bringing steel tracked machines down where that would be more appropriate for a street dig. We're trying to keep things nice and tight and compact. And we also got a 10 foot by 10 foot by 6 inch thick slab wrapped up into that cost that we got to, consume as well. So I know that looks like a pretty gnarly price. By all means, if you guys have a local digger that can get me down there and shore that up for cheaper, that's not really what we're in the business for. We're trying to get your pipe ripped out surgically. If you have a way to get me down there and do that cheaper, I'm all for it. But this is, a full ball of wax proposal like I was instructed to prepare. So that's what it takes to get it done. And the sewer gets pretty deep right outside the wall of that building, just so it clears the footings for when it leaves that boiler room. So I think we got this pretty well accounted for so that we don't have to, like I said, be worried about breaking other sidewalks. We're taking up a nice tight spot, and the machine we're bringing down is perfect for this side of work at this kind of depth.
Okay. And then another question would be, so a typical price like this compared to a standard job when obviously time is a little more flexible, is there a percentage built into these type of quotes then?
Not really. And if you actually compare this quote with my actual emergency quote from the cable retrieval, I actually didn't even, I put $5,000 on there usually just to get my emergency crew, just to get out of my shop and leave. I didn't put this on there as a repeat customer and a way to try and help the cost of this deal. So if there was a way to shave this down, like I told you, I backed off footage for pipe that's been replaced. That was originally part of what we were talking about. I trimmed off areas where I think fittings that are going in are going to take up, 4 or 5 feet of what was on the camera. So if there is a way to whittle this down, I think I got it covered. If we get going on this and one of these pits isn't needed, or maybe some of the fittings, like maybe that floor drain in the boiler room is close enough to the drain for the cooler, if I can bang that out in one trench, there's a $12,000 savings right there. We just don't know yet because it's super deep and my locator is, on that thick and that thick of concrete. It's pretty accurate. I mean, on the first project, it ended up with the pipe directly in the middle of the trench. But when you're talking about being 6 feet deep in the middle of a building, there's a few unknowns that can give you false readings. So we just prepare for it. We call for all the fittings, and if it's not right, the final bill will reflect that. But this is our best way of accounting for what our analysis has shown us and how we can get as precise as possible. So I think this is as accurate as we're going to get it. As far as the school's position where I'm sitting, the only way you guys can go from here is down. I don't see anywhere where this thing can escalate because we've accounted for anywhere for that to happen.
So just to clarify, Kevin, to make sure I understood you correctly, you don't, unless something really miraculous would change here, this price is our high price. It's not, it could go down, it wouldn't go up at any.
Absolutely. I would hold firm on this. And if there was a way to reduce it, I would be in the same interest as the school.
That makes sense what he's trying to say. Okay.
April, what cost do we have in this so far?
Hold on. I can tell you.
It was 20,000 for the emergent to get the snake out and get that two-way put back in. And then there was, I think it was 2,200 and something. Yeah, like 2,285 or something like that. Does that sound right, April?
$22,225 total so far.
Anything else, Ryan?
Yeah, where's this money gonna come from?
$150,000.
$150,000 of unbudgeted repairs, where is the money gonna come from to do this?
And that's the whole purpose of why you have the special reserve mills. That would be one place.
Correct.
We've also looked at increasing the building fund levy. That would be the other place. So we've tried to get as much as we could from the building fund, but then the remaining would go from the emergency.
The special reserve is about just under $230,000, and we can transfer up to 50% of it, so about $115,000 in any given fiscal year, right?
Correct.
And it hasn't moved in the 10 years I've been on the board, so this is the exact kind of thing that it's here. I hope the chiller doesn't go. They've been threatening me with that. Sheila, any questions?
No, I don't. I think he's done a good job of explaining the difference in the,
Monica?
I understand everything that's laid out.
Robert, anything else? You must. If you're trying to talk, you're muted. There you go.
Okay. No, that answers my question.
All right.
Ryan, are you gonna say something else?
No.
You just look like you're gonna say something. So sorry.
No.
Very much on spot.
It's the face of frustration.
Yeah, no, I know.
Where we're at.
All right. So we did move to proceed with this emergent repair last Tuesday. However, now that we have a proposal, a hard and fast proposal with numbers in front of us, it would seem to me like we should reaffirm that.
Yes.
I would have one more question. Kevin, how far away are you from having estimates to us for the subsequent potential phases?
So, good question. The phase 3, which would be and I'm sorry for keeping referring this to the special education wing. That's the only landmark I have is those classrooms. But that underground, if you guys want me to refer to it some other way, just let me know. But that other underground section we put a new clean out in and televised, that would be like a phase 3. And then past the janitor's closet would be a phase 2. Phase 3, I guess I could get you because I have that televised footage. Phase 2, putting those two-way cleanouts in the janitor's closet would allow for me to know what that would consist of. Is there sewer going to the north and the west out of that janitor's closet, just west? I don't know. So as soon as we get those in, I can give you more accurate representation of that versus just from the janitor's closet to the two-way cleanouts.
May I ask a
So I
question?
guess to make that answer even easier, if we get a little bit into this project and I get access to the lines better, in the next week or so, maybe less, I can give you a better answer to that.
All right, April, you have a question?
Dave Erlin, do you have any, I guess, input or anything on this as the maintenance manager?
No, I understand where the extra, because you can see it on the camera, watching that he was at 188 feet, I think, out to the clay tile. So that's where the extra footage come from. Probably the only thing I don't know that I don't have the answer on that excavation site 7, where you could drop off $12,000 or if that's needed. It would be needed if we have trouble there. And I don't know that we'll have trouble. It could, but that would be my only input on it, I guess. And then along with putting the 6-inch pipe in, what extra does that add? Does that go inside the old pipe or how does that work?
It does. Good question. So we're still using our pipe bursting methodology, and the increase in footage is kind of in thirds. A third of it is the pipe itself. A third of it is the tooling to be able to perform an upsize. So pipe bursting is usually a size on size, like a 4-inch to 4-inch, 4-inch to 6-inch, etc. So because we are increasing it, we're actually having the tooling specified to this project. So we've given them the specs on the cast iron, specs on the clay tile, what we're bursting through, the material we're pulling in there. We've got a tool that's being built into the pipe supplying spec. And then to back that up is the power requirement. So we are having an additional power unit brought in to pull the pipe so that hydraulically this thing advances nice and smooth underneath the kitchen, underneath the footing the way it's supposed to, and we don't have any hang-ups. So we build that into the price of the cost of the per foot price of the pipe to even it out over the cost of the entire installation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm going to ask Mr. Getz, I asked him before the meeting, when we first had this problem and you reached out to Drain Services, you reached out to several other potential contractors for, to assess and perhaps repair. Can you tell us how many and what your responses were?
Actually, it was Dave and I working together, and I want to say it was right around 5. Kevin would have been the 5th company. Does that sound right? There was a couple in Aberdeen, one in Fargo, and then there was one closer, and only one of them actually truly responded besides Kevin. But it was going to take some time before they could even get to us to even give us the estimate. And that's why when Kevin called, we moved forward as quickly as we could because we didn't know what we were going to get into. And looking forward now, it was probably a good thing that we didn't move forward with that, but at the same time, scary because we're pumping a lot of money into the school that was not expected. Am I pretty accurate with that, Dave?
I would
I mean, we sat in the office pretty much all morning that morning trying to get a hold of something.
Great.
It was nearly impossible.
Yeah.
We had one person that contacted us and they said, well, we'll call you back. And if we can get somebody to come up in the next day or something, we'll let you know. That was Aberdeen.
Kevin, during our meeting last Tuesday, I asked you how long your company has been in business, and I believe you told me 14 years.
12 years.
12 years. And you're offering, or you also represented that this project would have a 50-year warranty. Is that warranted by your company or by the supplier of the pipe technology that you utilize?
That's a great question. So we've actually got 3 ways that warranty is protected. The company will back up the warranty on all the installations. So if those cleanouts slip and there's a lip where anything's getting stuck on it, something doesn't settle right, we're not talking about cracked concrete outside from freeze thaw and all that stuff, but we're talking about, if that pipe sags because it wasn't filled in right and it's causing backups, whatever, the company will cover that on the labor side of things. The next way is from a complete failure standpoint. Say the pipe itself fails based on the engineering that we did. That's where our bond kicks in. So we've got, $5 million bonds and $5 million worth of insurance, which we can certainly have put into the school's name. Most of our huge projects require that. So we can get you guys an insurance certificate with the school on there as a protected interest. That's no problem. And that would be, like I said, if something we designed failed. Thirdly would be the pipe itself. So we engineered it right. Something fails with the pipe, it sandwiches out, welds don't hold up, etc. The pipe manufacturer will jump in and back us up. So every project we're on, we've got 3 levels of reassurance built in automatically before we even step foot on the job site.
Okay, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Mr. Getz, but have you spoken to any other customers of Drain Services that have had either positive or negative experiences with their service, their performance, their product?
Up until this project, no. Since then, I know Matt is actually currently working with, Kevin is actually working with a buddy of mine and Matt Schreiber up at Trenton. And he said that he's done nothing but excellent work. Up there, they ended up with, it's almost like when they had sewer troubles before, and when they backfilled it, it was almost like they filled it with like a concrete. And so it's a solid, they're having to jackhammer everything out in the middle of the school. And that's kind of the whole reason why Kevin's actually not here right now, is because of that job is taking way longer than what he ever expected it to do. Otherwise, Kevin would probably be here and we would be about done. I would guess if I was to hear right from Matt, that was kind of the concept, but he said he's done nothing but excellent work up there as well.
Well, we got to remember, my referral came to you guys originally when that cable was stuck from across the country, right? Something went out on an SOS looking for the sewer surgeon, and it went out to California, down to Texas, and then back up to my office. Hey, Kevin, there's somebody in your backyard that's got some serious problems. Can you reach out to these guys? So, I mean, this company rocks in all 50 states. We've had our equipment ferried across over to the Hawaiian Islands, out to Alaska. We get called into sensitive stuff, and it's because of how we address things. The over-engineering, the ability to adapt, I've never, ever passed a project on to somebody else. We're on it until the thing is done. And that's what we've built this company on, is the tools we bring on board ensure that there's no subcontracting, there's no warranties, there's no callbacks, there's no nothing. So we maintain a Class A license with the Secretary of State, which, puts us in an unlimited bidding category. We work with the DOTs, other school districts, the military, everybody. So it might sound like things get, kind of overkill here, but this is what have you not having this issue for 50 years minimum. I know the system will last longer than that, but that's what the pipe suppliers put on it. So we back it up the same way.
I did forget one is part of the connection that we have to Kevin too was I called a school board member from a neighboring district up in Williston that I knew had some troubles with one of their new buildings as well. And Kevin actually did that work as well. So there was 2 different, I guess, kind of one was beforehand, and I totally forgot about that until Kevin just started saying that. So I apologize. I'm not trying to fully fast one on, but so there would have been 2 there actually.
So we're looking at a potential expenditure of $123,500 of taxpayer money. Is it acceptable for us, for this board, to spend that amount of money on this type of a project without competitive bids in our hands?
Yes, and I double checked that this morning. I called another superintendent who was kind of the guru for all this kind of stuff, anything that comes with taxations and spending of funds. The North Dakota Centric Code has it listed at 150,000 is when we would need state approval. And then at 200,000 is when we would actually have to put it out for bids.
And if it was May instead of August, what would we be
Same.
doing?
Exact same thing.
But do you think we would be seeking competitive
Oh, yes,
bids?
most definitely. Then at that point, we would have more time to be able to seek those bids. And yes, we would. Nothing against Kevin, but we always want to make sure that whoever we have in here, we would hold them accountable to their price and make sure that they're the best price for us.
And I would say that Kevin is knowledgeable that we are likely going to need additional work or we're exploring the need for additional work. And I suspect that he would like to continue to do business with us and will do the best he can on this project so that he gets good consideration for the next phases should they be required.
And not only that, I'm guessing Kevin knows that with my knowledge of the school system and the connections that I have around the state, he's probably going to use me as a reference in time as well, too. Would be my guess.
Absolutely. You guys are all nailing it right on the head. I mean, this is the reputation we've built is because of new successful relationships like this. So that's why you're getting, not just a guy in the office, you got the owner on site. I'm in there with my guys, I'm beating it, I'm pounding the pavement, but then I'm also maintaining, relationships with my customers. So you're not getting passed along at any point during this project, which is something I really pride myself on building this company. So you guys are in good hands. If there was going to be a project that has an issue go on, I hate joking about it, but this is the company you want to have in it because we adapt, we contract, we get things done at every stage. We don't stop a project and say, whoa, major red flag, because we've already addressed all the potential red flags there could be. So, if something creeps up that's subterranean, like what we're going through right now that we just got done with, we stop for a second, readdress. We got the tools right then and there to get going on it and readdress it on the spot. So we're not wasting valuable time. That's kind of how we got the company set up right now, is to move as quick as we can from job to job and get the services back online so that you guys can start the school year without a hitch.
Are there any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion either to approve or to reevaluate or adjust if you want to take out the 12 grand or whatever, board members. I think we can continue to discuss, but I think we should have a motion on the table.
I would make the motion to accept the proposal for the Emergent repairs to the sewer system as is.
As at the maximum of 123,500. Okay. Nagel moves to approve the drain services proposal for Emergent sewer repairs in the amount of a maximum of $123,500 as listed on the proposal. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Heimbach seconds. Is there any discussion? Question for Kevin. You've referred to some really serious issues you've run into up at Trenton. Are you seeing up there any change orders that are resulting in increases to your proposal for them?
That's a really good question. We actually have two change orders in process. One of them is related to the fill issue we're talking about, and this is just a ridiculous anomaly. Like to identify this would be a $4,000 ground penetrating radar inspection, which is something that is that's like a highway DOT thing. These guys did a repair, who knows when, and I'm sure in their heads they were thinking like, we're going to put this flowable fill in there because these pipes aren't going to go anywhere. Well, the cast iron they hooked onto did go somewhere, it collapsed. And so to get down to that, their previous work, we had to jackhammer. We've got the most powerful electric hammers you can get. We don't use road hammers because they break the insides of buildings. So we use heavy Hilti breakers. It took two of those things going down 6 inches at a time, 2.5 10-hour days to get down there. twins going down there. All they could do is take out little pea-sized chunks of it. It was like chiseling through concrete down 7 feet deep. So that definitely got a change order, not just for the labor, but for the fill. We can't put concrete back into a hole, like chunks of concrete back into a hole and use it as bedding for pipe. Something that's an anomaly. The school accepted it. You know, they did it. It's no problem because they understand that's out of our control. The second one was a maintenance standpoint, which is kind of what happened after I removed the cable for your school. When we got into it and realized that some cleaning and some televising had to be done, it really wasn't a change order. It was kind of like a second project was formed to see what was going on in the rest of the school. Same thing happened here. A connection outside the building showed up. It jutted over to a few classrooms that they thought went a different way down the hallway. They opted to have that line cleaned and televised as just a, we want to know what's up type of thing. So the best way to do that was a change order, just because we were already out there, and it was kind of, it wasn't really a cardinal change. It was more of like an addition to work we were already doing there. So they thought a change order would be more appropriate than changing the whole contract. Other than that, everything's been smooth sailing. All the pipes been pulled in, no issues, no pull aparts. All the cleanouts are going together super smooth. Installation is right on track the way it's supposed to be. We'd be out of here 3 days ago if we weren't dealing with weird backfill.
So the answer to my question is yes. And you've represented that you don't anticipate any kind of change orders that would increase the dollar amount of your proposal. But I would just suggest that it is possible, and we should be aware of the fact that, of course, it's possible. And we're hoping that there will be savings that go the other way instead of higher. Any other questions, comments, discussion?
I guess just looking at this, seeing that we put over $20,000 into just flushing that existing portion, it makes sense for me to invest in this so that we don't have to keep doing that. If that happens every time, well, as the sewer gas in the school and well, and what does it cost against the school board?
Yeah, make it up.
I don't think our stakeholders would be happy. I don't like spending this kind of money, but it's
not
all
frivolous spending. I'm
no,
sorry.
It's all, the system has already outlived and outperformed by far its expected useful life, and we are told that it will last for 50 years once we do this, and we will be able to see more, have a better view of what may be needed to be done elsewhere in our 100-year-old building and the rest of our complex.
Well, that's going to help us budget going forward to have those numbers.
Ryan, comments?
Nope, all my questions have been answered.
Robert, anything?
No, just the same deal. Obviously I don't like it, but I don't see an alternative at the moment.
All right, if there's no further discussion, April, please call the roll.
Ryan,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
and Sheila.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0. This is a special meeting. We can't add anything to our agenda, so we've completed our action. Thank you for being with us, Kevin. Thank you, board members, for joining us on such short notice and for good discussion. Thank you, staff, for getting this together for us. I will adjourn the meeting at 12:44.
Can I ask one? Actually, it's a kind of a two-headed question.
The meeting's
The
adjourned,
meeting's
so it would
adjourned,
be,
so
you can call me if you want.
All right, sounds good. I'll just do that. Thanks, guys.
Okay.